Alright, hello everyone, I'm Crazy, aka Why Must I Sign In, and this is a match in the Star Battle January 2017 tournament, the Open Tournament. In the bottom left, it looks like we have, let me make sure I'm not confused. Shouldn't there be JQuest? Yeah, there's JQuest. Okay, so this is Sabre6. In the top left, we have DarkUncle. He's running a Guardian with range and spores. Then we have Survivorman opening Plague as an Overlord. We have PraetorAlex as a Colossus going 4-3. We have JQuest opening Feedback. We have Jimber going range missiles. And we have Bled who opened Protect the Field. Interesting choice, 2 cats. On the opposing team, we have PHAROS, MoneyScan going 3-2-1 Dreadnought, 0.61 speed. We have JebusChrist opening Plague on Overlord. Murse with Imp. Windu as 4-3 Colossus, Vicgunss as Feedback Arbiter, and GeneralX as Range Rocket. So, this is a 2-tank versus, do I have this right? Yeah, 2-tank versus 2-tank compositions. Key difference so far, DarkUncle's Guardian versus the Raven. And that's not the only difference, though. It's also BC versus Frigate. So, Colossus is very popular right now in terms of a center lane tank right now, and then the side lane Dreadnought also seems to be a popular choice in this tournament so far as I've seen. The red team is making a good early push. Power in that Guardian is going to make it harder for the blue team to push out, but the blue team may have a stronger late game. Oh god, we have a little bit of lag here. It's not me, it's Survivorman, so that's nice. I'm going to play, it seems like this is a pretty safe position for the moment. No one's going to die, so I'm going to play with my sound just a little bit. I want to get the sound effects down just a touch. So I can still hear the shots, but it's not going to be drowning out my voice. So, pretty standard opens mostly around. The biggest kind of unusual choice being the Dreadnought's Protect the Field. I play a lot of Dreadnought, and Protect the Field is a very strong spell. When you're kind of anticipating, when you're going up against a good team, though, usually you're expecting some amount of denial, even in the early game. So it's not a very popular opening for that reason, because if you get imped once, it's going to be kind of rough. But if you don't get imped and you're in a side lane against a ship that does not have denial, it's a pretty good choice. So it's, in this situation, it's not as unreasonable as an opening choice as I might have thought it was, but it really kind of depends on where your positioning is then, right? You really are counting on the enemy team first not thinking you have Protect the Field for an open, so not committing the imp to you, and also for the imps to be directed toward the mid, which is going to be the intuitive location since there's a lot more shields there between the Arbiter and the BC and the Colossus. So interesting opening game choices there. But it is paying off. I think it's paying off a lot more because of the Guardian versus the Raven, though. I think that's the key difference here so far. That's the reason the red team has pushed in so much at this stage of the game. And they really are going to need that a good, strong farm advantage because Guardian is an exceedingly greedy ship, especially versus something like Arbiter Frigate, where there's going to be the mid-game concern of Stasis Torpedo. And Survivorman is continuing to have some latency issues. I'm at 70 FPS in this game with 70 ping, so I don't think I'm going to be at risk of being the one lagging too much here. I probably need to kill the music, actually. Otherwise I'm going to be risking who knows what copyright concerns that are going to mute my audio later on when I export to YouTube. Anyway, we got some attempt to regain farm, but they're not really, again, they're not committing too hard to regaining farm here. They don't want to get caught being down on upgrades. So they do want the farm because they're down 200 right now. But they are not in a position where they can safely stay here if the red team is going to push out with some upgrades. So it's a tricky position, and this early game is always very, very dangerous because you don't want to be too far down on farm that you just, the enemy team turns into a brick wall. But you also can't lose a ship because that will, in the long run, hurt you even more. That's in terms of limiting late game options and comeback potential. There was a lot of metagame thought here in terms of composition as well, because JQuest had just watched PHAROS' last game. He co-commentated with me. And so there's a little bit of observer effect where for a little bit, PHAROS were considering running 3 tanks actually just to kind of disrupt his expectations. But then they decided they didn't really want to do that. They went for a comp that was very similar. I think actually maybe the exact same as what they ran in that last game they played against Salvo. But it's not... this is a similar... It's somewhat similar to what happened against Salvo last game, where Salvo began the game very, very strong with the triple tank, but then never reached a point where they could take advantage of it, and then ended up losing some ships to a big bad nuke. So it's not like it's certainly not the case that even though they're currently down almost 400 farm, Sabre6 is not thinking they are in a bad position here necessarily. They're not thinking they've lost this game if they can get a good pick, if they can get a good torp land, or whatever else. Right now, GeneralX is far away from a torp though, sitting on 200 farm, mostly just focusing on rockets, trying to get back into a position where they can farm safely. But the 300 farm difference is holding for the moment. It's going to be hard to get back in without really containing the enemy team, which they just really can't do yet. DarkUncle does have Corrosive Acid and Scourge, so he has that mid-game burst damage potential. No commitment to Broods yet, although that's, of course, where really the end game is going to be if it gets to that point. Right now, Sabre6 can come out very, very strong. It depends on how they want to play it, though. They have lockdown on Jimber, so no nuke there. Rather, just focusing on taking advantage of the BC's potential for energy control. PraetorAlex does have Lance. DarkUncle with Scourges, bled with explosive charges, JQuest with boost. Interesting to see where he puts the boost. And then Survivorman staying on Plague. So there's a lot of burst damage potential here between the Lance and the Scourges. Chrono boosting DarkUncle. Interesting. Getting that energy regeneration up on him so that he can Scourge even more and get into position to safely Scourge. Oh, dropping the Corrosive Acid now. Oh, yeah, it's actually just as much for the Corrosive Acid. Corrosive Acid, then Scourge. Creates a very threatening situation for Windu. He does not want to be taking quite this much aggression. As soon as the Corrosive Acids are on him, his Plasma Shield will drop down. It wears off pretty quickly, though. And it also means that JQuest generally needs to be very careful with his positioning, because if they can ever be at a point returning, where they want to turn, boosting his team will not necessarily help them, especially with the Guardian there. Guardian is always a very weak ship on a retreat. Oh, what was that, DarkUncle? That was a very greedy turn. I don't know what he was trying to do there, but he's going to be okay, but that very nearly could have killed him if blue team wasn't quite so far down on farm as they were. So staying on rockets, protective field and bots, Guardian shield, a little bit of side blast on Jebus, and Vicgunss staying focused on the feedback. Farm is at 2,000 to 1,700. At this 14-minute mark, the the 300 farm difference isn't as bad, right? It's in that early game where the risk is that it turns into a snowball, where if they get a 200 farm lead, maybe they come back and they get a really strong contain that turns it into a 400 or 500 farm lead. That didn't really happen here. Blue team is still down 250 farm, but the lead has shrunk slightly. But the most important thing is that it doesn't grow. If you just keep the game going with their comp, with 2 support and the Overlord, they just need to not let a contain get out of control. Oh, wow. Corrosive acid on Jebus. That was hairy for a second there, but he got out. He's not going to die right now. This is another important point where if they take too much damage coming back in like that, that they create the risk that the red team will get a more solid contain, and the farm differential will become more troublesome to deal with. It's already gone back up to 400, and if it becomes 500, that gets really rough for the blue team. That's very close to the equivalent of being down a ship. They're trying to push back out now. It is a 500 farm difference at the moment, so they really need to get back out. They're not gonna. It doesn't look like they're gonna get a kill here, at least not as far as I can tell. But they need to get back out and get the farm, avoid the contain getting out of control. Good warp in, but still nothing here to pick off unless DarkUncle does another greedy turn like he did last time. Boy, if DarkUncle... he's dropping a corrosive, but he's getting a good drift going, so he's not letting it get too bad. Bled can turn out and overcommit a little bit because he is a dreadnought, and he can just pop his protective field and pretty much ignore most of their damage. So now they're getting it back down to a 400 farm difference, but the question is, what are they going to be coming out with? Where is their farm? Bled coming in with 800. Let's see what he gets. He has protective field. He has explosive charge. He has bots. Oh, some lasers and armor. So it's not the most aggressive. He wants to make sure that his farming capacity stays solid. So he got some gats, but he definitely could have committed a little bit more into gats. You know, with coming back with 800, I might skip farming ups or armor altogether, just try to get damage and see if you can pull off a kill. But since blue team is already kind of going back in, and they didn't have anything like a warp trip set up, I guess the armor and farming ups do kind of make sense here, actually. Always gotta... Being the most aggressive doesn't always work. You do gotta go with what is actually happening with the map and with your team. And it's not like they can very easily set up a warp trip because of the Raven on the blue team. The red team is actually much more in danger of a warp trip since they are lacking the Raven and have to rely on Jimber's scan, which he can't always cast. A little bit of a push coming in here. With the siege coming in behind, this is very dangerous for Sabre6. They're pushing in. They're going to kill the siege creep. Torp is out. It hits Survivorman. DarkUncle gets splashed. He's down to 3,000, but they're still pushing. Bled is pushing, but he has no one behind him to back him up. Well, he has Alex and he has Jimber, but they want to get Windu down. They want to threaten the other team, and in that way, the bleeding Guardian can go back safely. That was a good torp from General, but not enough to turn the game around. The farm differential is drifted up to 600, which means that at this point it is very much like, they can push in with 5 ships, even though DarkUncle had to go back. They're up so much farm that they can actually push with just 5 ships. That's really where you start to feel the difference of 800 farm, is in a moment like that, where even after a nuke, PHAROS had to go back. Just trying to get that farm. It is the case that PHAROS has a more late game oriented composition, but a late game oriented composition won't be enough if the farm differential keeps growing as it has been just recently. Kind of just an attempt to slowly push out. Sabre6, DarkUncle has come back out, but everyone else hasn't been back recently, so some of them are floating on a fair amount of money. Survivorman floating 600, Bled floating 500, JQuest floating 500, Jimber floating 400. So they want to get back and they want to spend their money. They don't want to let anyone die here. That would be embarrassing to have a ship die when they're up as much farm as they are. Even having blue team pushed in, they're only pushed it down to a 500 farm difference. It's still pretty significant lead for Sabre6. MoneyScan up to 4 shields. We'll see who commits to 10 shields first. When you're getting to this post 20-minute mark, it is tempting sometimes to get those 10 shields for the constant shield regeneration. Lots of different abilities in PraetorAlex. 500 energy. Vulnerability shield, that's his ultimate. He has, the more energy he gets, at some point it becomes very hard to really control his energy, especially since they have Jimber with the lockdowns, and a nuke now. So if Jimber gets to a point where he can actually drop a nuke, he is happy to do so. Doesn't look like PHAROS is going to give him the opportunity to do that, though. Just Plague Tag in the top, 8 Mutalisks on Survivorman, 5 on JebusChrist, which is, at this point, 2-shot farm, actually. It's actually a 700 farm difference now? Yeah. The lead just keeps growing for Sabre6. It's getting harder and harder for PHAROS to get back in this game. Praetor can kind of safely just stay up here and farm like this. It's a little bit dangerous, especially with these Tempests coming in. But on the other hand, he wants to be the one absorbing all the Tempest shots, so he wants to make sure that he's close enough that he consistently knows where they are, so that he's taking all of the Tempest shots, and so he can easily mitigate the Tempest damage with his hardened shield. So he wants to stay kind of a little bit back, but not so much that he actually starts taking aggression from multiple ships, because then he would die very quickly. Yeah, he's even trying to keep them off the towers to an extent. He doesn't want the PHAROS to push in too much, so that they maybe, you know, they're down some farm. They'd really love to just pick off a tower here. They really can't very easily. Oh, there's even a parasite on Jebus. So the appeal of the Arbiter Raven combo here is a little bit off, because Murse can't just sit there spamming defensive matrix, since Jebus will remain visible even through cloak. And that's a concern. Yeah, this is a very rough spot for PHAROS. But it's certainly not over yet. It's still a tight game. Glad that we're getting a chance to see this mid-game action. Is this money? No, that, maybe Survivorman lagging again. And MoneyScan is coming back with just 180 farm, just 180 minerals. He's thirsty. He wants to stay out a little bit longer. He doesn't want to just go straight back in. If he can damage them or get some more farm, he would really like to do that. He doesn't want to fly back with just 200 minerals. Windu dropped. Ooh, we got a Torp. We got a Torp. Torp on Bled. But he's okay. He has bots. He can absorb the damage. And in the meantime, the splash actually, I think, might have hit MoneyScan a little bit too. Dark has just begun to go into Broodlords. He doesn't have Broodlords yet. He does have 5 Broodling Strike. But he has to be thinking that, you know, sometime soon he's going to be transitioning into Broodlords. Got a PP. Please pause. It seems to have been Survivorman through most of the game, so I don't know what the solution to fixing lag would be. Apparently it is not something that is solvable on the client side. It is probably ISP-based lag. Yeah, St. Louis has been a blizzard, well, not a blizzard, but it's been very stormy in St. Louis recently.
Game resumed.
Scourge is going in. Oh, he might actually... I haven't really been paying attention to whether he's been upgrading Scourges. Let me think about this. 12 Scourges. Okay. Sometimes Guardians can actually think about just going kind of pure Scourges and hoping to pick off a tower that way. It's tricky, though, because especially with the Raven, the defensive Matrix can really shut down the damage that the Scourges do. And with the Colossus as well, the Lances really start to just interrupt the ability for the Guardian to do anything and really contribute to the team. Sometimes it's good, but I'm not sure I would go too heavily into Scourges against their composition. Praetor can kind of ignore these big blasts. JebusChrist is 2,200 damage side blast, but Alex can just kind of reduce it to 50 every time he has his Hardened Shield up. JQuest has to be careful, though, because he can only take about 6 side blasts before he pops, so he can't let the Overlord stay on him for any period of time. And the longer this game goes on, the more opportunities there will be for Vicgunss to come over and drop his, whoa, Survivorman is low. General is on him. Jimber had to come up. Blackout is on. Is he going to be able to... Oh, General is committing deep to this. He drops him. Whoa, JQuest is low too. Jimber is very low. Jimber is at 100. He is down. Torp is out. He torped himself. He's up to 10 shields though, so he can take it. And this is what I was saying, is that, you know, this whole game, it has seemed as though, whoa, I'm trying to analyze, and there's still things going on, and that Bled is just out here on his own, getting revenge. Bled is probably going to be able to safely get back. I don't know. Everything is going crazy. Scourges are going out. DarkUncle is very low. Windu does not feel safe staying and continuing to fight the Guardian. I don't know. Like, in this situation, do you commit and fight the Guardian? So, Sabre6 made it a 2-for-1. The farm has now swung to PHAROS, actually. And this is kind of what I was saying, is that even though Sabre6 has been winning this entire game, PHAROS are really count on this late-game-oriented composition that gives the opportunity for big comebacks, like pretty much what we just saw. And this is not as big of a comeback as it was in their last game, where they did a 2-for with no casualty. And so what happened is they lost their Overlord. So that's a big part of their damage here that is now gone. A big part of their in-game comp, and so a little bit more of their damage is going to be reliant on GeneralX, who can theoretically be countered by Force Field, but that does actually require the Arbiter to get Force Field. So it's still, I believe it's still double tank versus double tank, so that's interesting. Yeah. Double tank versus double tank, Arbiter on both sides still. And then key difference is this Guardian, and Dark has now gotten Broodlords. He's up to 525 energy. He has Adrenal Overlord, but only level 6 Broodling Strike, so until he really gets to level 11 plus level 13 Broodling Strike, the Broodlings don't really swing things as much as he might like. This game is now close In terms of composition, it now strongly favors PHAROS, but the farm is still now within 200, favoring PHAROS. PHAROS are now thinking, can we actually pick off a battle station maybe? Certainly at least threaten it, make it so that Sabre6 can't just casually decide when they want to come out. Getting some damage on MoneyScan, but really just taking down the shields, and the shields don't make much of a difference at this point. Bled went for the 10 shields, MoneyScan did not. JQuest is down to Hull, and General is staying on him. If he could keep his rockets focused, it's hard to confidently aim. They got distracted and kept shooting DarkUncle instead. That was very nearly a kill on JQuest, though. Bled is out here, but I don't think they're going to be able to kill him. Although GeneralX does have a torp up. I don't know if he's going to go for it. He is! Bled just will take a few more rocket shots to ignore the torp. Does have to be careful because MoneyScan's explosive charge does mean he can't just ignore all the damage. And now PHAROS is here, threatening the strong contain. Getting some damage in on the base. Of course, the siege creep are coming out now, but man, this is a big turnaround. That's what makes Star Battle fun, is that even in games that seem to be so one-sided for so long, big comebacks can and do occur. Burlings are still at level 6. I think he picked up Dark Swarm. That's what happened there. $350 farm differential, but with the Broodlords and the Siege Creep here, this is kind of an opportunity. If MoneyScan goes down any lower, they might try to push out. Fortunately, PraetorAlex is really low on shields and continuing to be harassed by GeneralX. Very strong, solid play from PHAROS here. They kept it under control even when they were down up to 700 farm in this game. But, you know, they picked off Survivorman, who was just a massive chunk of their farm. Now they're threatening DarkUncle. If they can pick off DarkUncle, this is very likely to be gain. Bled deliberately takes the nuke just to make sure that DarkUncle does not get hit by it. And that really keeps the team as a whole alive, because Bled can take the damage that DarkUncle really cannot. And now in this situation, Money has actually taken a fair amount of hull damage. He has the bots and he has the protective field, so he's not too worried, but they can't just keep diving in forever here. Not yet, at least. And with the 2 support, the thing is that Jeebus died, so they lost their big burst damage in the Overlord. But it does also mean that they lost the only ship that really can not be supported by the double support here. The shields and the shield regeneration, Vicgunss, and Murse means that every ship can receive shields, every ship can receive support. Makes it very hard to pick off any ship at this point. But because of the Colossus and Arbiter combination, it is hard also for them to generate new kills. Colossi are generally big and fat and good at not dying, so long as they're in the right hands. So, PHAROS now going back with a 400 farm lead, and now trying to decide how they transition their current ship and farm lead into winning plays. MoneyScan not at the 10 shields, coming out with 8, 8, 8, 8, and 3. Interesting. I think he's been dumping some money on the explosive charge damage. 450 energy. A little bit less than Bled, who has been dumping even more money into explosive charge damage, but is also up to 10, 10, 10, or 10, 10, 7, 10. course, bled is up 300 farm, which is why there's such a difference in upgrades here, and that sort of difference can really be significant. So you think bled is the one who went out and got the revenge kill on JebusChrist. If there's going to be a kill here, it may very well be bled diving on either the
User
Arbiter or
joined
the
your
Raven.
channel.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, are you casting now?
I am. I'm watching PHAROS versus Sabre6.
Okay, well, don't let me interrupt you then.
Oh.
Is it almost over?
I have... Well, I honestly don't know.
Okay. Was going to ask you to cast the game, but you're busy.
Yeah. Make
later.
sure you give me the replay later on, though, or let me know which one.
Okay.
User left your channel.
Alright, what do we got here? Brood Lords are up to level 9, so they're not really to that level 11 mark where they can really threaten support very easily. You know, it takes a little bit more time, but you know, this is kind of the reverse situation where it can start to be hard for Pharaohs to really turn the game into a win if the game lasts so long that DarkUncle can get his Brood Lords to a very high point. And you got the main thing to watch here is actually JQuest, because if they can get some denial, if they can get damage focused on JQuest, this could, you know, if they lose the Arbiter, the game is over. JQuest still does not have Force Field, which I think is interesting versus the level 15 rockets. He also does not have Cloak. He has Stasis, Feedback, and Boost. But, you know, he also is only sitting on 600 farm, so he can't have everything and have the energy to actually cast it. I can't see his shield amount, but I know it's at least 100. Oh, wow. He went 240 on shield recharge. Wow, that is a lot of shield recharge. So he's actually been focusing on the shield recharge, making sure that the ships that are out can stay out and have those shields to deal with the damage. It's an interesting choice. I do think that, you know, with the level 15 rockets, the force field would make a difference here. But I think there was a change. I don't know, if I can, I'm going to ask JQuest on the reasoning behind dumping a lot of money into shields after the 20-minute mark. Because usually at that point I would move away from shields, focus more on spells like force field and cloak. MoneyScan is taking some damage, but it's, you know, it's bled does outpower him, he does outmoney him, but it is a question of whether he can really get a kill here with Murse being able to come in and drop some whatever he wants, really. Murse has the Seeker. I don't know what he's hoping to accomplish with the Imp. It basically is doing nothing. He's only ever going to have him at most 50 energy. This is Survivorman, I'm guessing? Yep. Ooh, General is just a little bit exposed. If bled could actually get a charge on him, he might die, but Vicgunss has to be very careful here. Praetor wants to really get some more lances on, but I don't think he can get a kill here. And so this is the strong back and forth. There's so much money on the different ships here. The Brood Lords still aren't high enough. Well, this prism is dropping pretty fast. If they can get a prism here. Ah, no, not with the cloak. I don't think they're going to be able to. They're going to have to back off now, and they're going to have to back off in a hurry. Yeah, Money comes out with siege mode, saying, no, you are not destroying our warp prism. Thanks for trying, though. GeneralX now has the Rip Wave, so every time his rockets land, they're going to splash onto the adjacent ship. And with the Rip Wave, he doesn't have rapid reload, but he does have Rip Wave and level 15 rockets. I'm curious what JQuest is going to pick up coming back with 600 minerals. He's not worried too much about the two tanks staying out a little bit longer. He wants to get back some of his minerals and get back out there. So he picks up Cloak. Alright. What? What else did he spend money on? Oh, he bought more shields. Okay. Block out here. This does present something of a threat, more for Alex, I think, than Bled. Bled has so much armor, he can kind of stay here. But unfortunately, he's not getting his gats very efficiently on MoneyScan for that in that moment, so he's not breaking him out of siege mode very easily. DarkUncle coming in cloaked, able to drop some of his broodlords, not all of them though. Trying to get some scourges off as well. Up to level 15 brood. So this is really the point where the broods start to take off and have more of a significant impact in the game. It's now reversed. There's now a 600 farm lead for PHAROS. Hallucinations starting, the hallucinations are so fat, they're absorbing a fair amount of damage. The thing is that for DarkUncle, the broods are to the point where they can take off, but they also die very easily to things like siege mode. So they have to break him out of siege mode for the broodlords to be able to do what they need to do. And in the meantime, he wants to get that battle station, and he does. It's gone. That was the first battle station gone. And money is a little bit low, though. Actually, he's out of energy. Vicgunss is not in the correct position. He's at 1500 life. I'm guessing he has E-shields, so we'll see what happens if they can actually pop his E-shields. 500. Bled down to 6,000 life. Whoa, what? Things are happening back here. Yeah, the Arbiter died. The torp hits Bled. E-shields pop. He had to know there was E-shields at this point. Meanwhile, everyone is just dying in the back. I was so focused here on Bled. Oh, Bled is... They have his E-shields already popped? He has bots, but as soon as Windu gets over here, he is basically doomed. Yeah, his E-shields had already popped. Alright, well, Sabre6 managed to get their kill. They did not make it a shutout. So that was a good game. That was fun to watch. Thank you to both teams, and thank you to watching. I'll see you in the next match.